Thank you. I always push the button too soon. I'm I'm Alice, I'm a recovered alcoholic. It's really lovely to be here. Oh my God. And I want to welcome those who are new, counting days. Um, I hope you find what I found in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's it's a really good way of life. Um, and thank you for that reading. It is a design for living that works in rough going. When I first came in, I didn't think I had anything to give. You know, I was very much in my own head. I was struggling. I was crying. I thought that being in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous is just the worst thing that can happen to anyone. Embarrassed to be here, you know, in front of other alcoholics. Like I just, you know, I was only thinking of myself. And yet I will never forget when I was on day 2. I was in my recovery started by I checked myself into a detox facility, and that facility was right next to an AA meeting. So on day 2, I'm still shaking and crying and have to sit in this meeting, you know, and just miserable. And I just could not even lift my head. And a woman sat down next to me, and she looks at the floor because I'm looking at the floor. And she says, "Oh my gosh, would you look at that? We're wearing the same shoes." And I'm like, "What?" And I look down, and sure enough, we were wearing the same shoes. They were just like Keds, you know, but same style and brand and color, everything, you know. And and she says, "That means everything's going to be okay." And my first thought was, no, it means we're wearing the same shoes, you know. But but I thought, yeah, okay, maybe everything's going to be okay. And I was able to lift my head, and the meeting started. And just like at this meeting, the host asked, "Is there anyone here counting days?" And I raised my hand and said, "I'm Alice. I'm an alcoholic. I'm on day 2." And the woman next to me with the shoes, she raised her hand and she said her name and said, "I've got 11 days." And I was like, how do you do that? How do you get 11 days? I wanted to be like her. 11 days didn't sound like a short amount of time. It didn't sound like I knew she had something that she already had transmitted to me, a little bit of hope, um, welcoming me, caring, extending a hand. I'll never forget that. And I'll never doubt the power of a newcomer helping another newcomer. It's all throughout our literature. Um, the design for living that works in rough going, that it is a design, that it is helping another alcoholic. Um, Bill was laying in his hospital bed thinking about how he could help others. When I was like, you know, laying in that detox bed, I was not thinking about that. So I'm sure grateful that our founder did. I would not have come up with this way of life, not on my own thinking. I'm grateful it's here. Um, that, that Bill knew that helping others would be the key. And, you know, if you read in Bill's story, just a few pages before that, he's pushing a drink across the table to his friend who is sober, you know? So it's like in one moment, he's like trying to get his sober friend to drink. And then a few pages later, he's thinking about helping other alcoholics. What a transformation. That's what we get to experience around here. Instead of thinking about my own comfort or my own discomfort or the way I think things should go, my own needs, my own perceived needs, I can start thinking about how can I help the next person. I struggled for a long time with drinking. It was scary to think about sobriety. It was scary to think of trying to go through life sober. I couldn't imagine that. And by the time I made it into the rooms, I had been drinking for a couple of decades. And that was my way of life. That was my design for living, was the bottle, numbing out or trying to hide it or trying to just not drink. I think I spent about half my drinking career trying not to drink and failing over and over again. And it wasn't until I came into the rooms that, I knew that I was an alcoholic, even though I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know any of the words in the big book, but come to see what I had already lived, what I'd already experienced was this fact that when I would pick up the first drink, I needed another drink. And then I would need another drink, that I couldn't turn that off. And as time passed, I couldn't slow it down either. Moderation was off the table. I tried. I really wanted to moderate, man. I never wanted to have just one drink because that hurts. Like that, I'm kicking off that phenomenon of craving, that need for the next drink. Like that just pisses me off, unless I can have more coming. But I didn't want to go so far overboard. I didn't want to get sick. I didn't want to embarrass myself. I didn't want to forget. I didn't want to black out. I just want to numb out the pain a little bit and then go to sleep, instead of causing all this trouble. But I couldn't regulate. And then I tried to just not drink altogether. Once I figured out that moderation was off the table, okay, I'm just not going to drink at all. And I failed at that too. I'd wake up and say, well, I'm not going to drink today. Here's how. I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to journal. I'm going to stay strong. I'm going to, think about how bad I felt yesterday when I drank. And I'm going to leave my wallet at home so I can't go buy a bottle. And I'll make sure I have enough Snapple Diet Peach iced tea in the fridge so that I won't want to drink anything else. And man, and some days that would work and most days it wouldn't. And I couldn't tell you when or which. And I started feeling crazier and crazier. And over time, alcohol, it stopped numbing out the pain and instead seemed to expose it. And all that I was numbing out was any kind of joy in my life. And I just felt like an empty shell of a person. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how to love or accept love or be useful. My head was too loud and even the alcohol wasn't quieting it anymore. And then I find myself in this detox facility and realizing this is the end of my life as I know it. How will I ever have fun again if I can't drink? Forgetting that I hadn't had fun with the bottle in a long time by the time I made it in here, and that moment of clarity that I share about it a lot because it was such it was such an important moment in my recovery. What happened was I was finally decided to check myself into this detox facility. And the morning that I was scheduled to check in, I'm packing my bag and getting ready to go. And my husband walks in and he catches me drinking right out of a bottle as I'm packing. It's like 8 in the morning, you know. And and my husband, he's a normie, and he looks at me and he goes, "Is that going to be your last drink?" And I was like, "Oh my God, how does anyone, I don't know." You know, it suddenly like dropped from my head to my heart that I I can't possibly say whether that's going to be my last drink. I've proven to myself over and over again. I keep picking up again. And even though I'm checking myself into this facility, they're going to let me out at some point. Then what? You know? And I realized that, like, yeah, I knew I couldn't control my drinking after the first one. But in that moment, I realized, like, oh, I can't control my sobriety either. And that's what I had been trying to do by saying, I'm not going to drink. With what power? How? Powerless over the first drink, not just after the first drink. And that's devastating. But thank God for that moment, because I needed that. I needed that complete defeat. Realize that I am powerless. I don't have any power here. I've got not, you know, the fight is fixed. And instead I need to step out of the ring. And we get down to the detox facility, and they led me back to my room, and there was a cat sitting on the bed at a detox facility. And that was a surprise. And I'm a crazy cat lady. Um, we have several throughout the house here. Anyway, it felt like, in my arrogance, really, I look back at it, but it felt like that cat had been placed there for me, which it wasn't, but it felt like a sign from the universe that I'm supposed to be here right now. And my mind cracked open to the idea that maybe there's a power greater than me. and and maybe there is something at work here that can help me. And I was only able to receive that idea because I finally realized how hopeless, powerless I really was. Looking back, it feels like it was instinctual. I had a first step experience which enabled me to have a second step experience. I realized I'm drowning. I am just reaching for a life preserver. I don't care what you call it. I'm not overthinking it. I am just reaching for it. And today I know that that is the powerful hand of God, or higher power, or source, or love, whatever you call it. And so I was in that perfect state to accept help. And then the help was there. On that second day, a woman with 11 days gives me all the hope I needed in that exact moment. I could lift my head and I could listen. And a woman had approached me the day before, the day of my last drink. Oh, swigging out of the bottle as I packed my suitcase. It remains my last drink. I've been sober over 11 years. Not Alice Power. not a personal accomplishment. I wanted to do it on my own. I couldn't. Um, and and a woman had come up to me that day and offered to help me take the 12 steps. And I said, okay. And I found out later that I was her very first sponsee. It does not take a whole lot of wisdom or time or even experience to help the next person. It's a design for living that works in rough going. By taking the steps, I have been able to tap into a new power that has restored me to sanity, and I am not drinking because I'm sane now. It was an insane thing to do, to pick up that first drink with my experiences with it and desire to not drink. I needed a power greater than myself. And today I get to tap into that. And it's taken effort, not to not drink, but to face myself and to be willing to be free of my self-centeredness, my resentments, my fear, all these manifestations of self that were blocking me from that power. My head isn't noisy anymore. That's weird. Like it's astonishing. I didn't know how noisy my head was until it quieted down and I could hear people and relax and be comfortable in my own skin, whether I'm by myself or in a room full of people. I just hadn't experienced that before. I'm grateful for my alcoholism and all that suffering and struggle and all the drinks I didn't want to take that I took anyway because I couldn't not, because it brought me to this place of being able to know this higher power in my heart and have that guidance with me always. And a huge part of it is to stop being so selfish and to try to help the next person. It sounds simple, and it is. I overthought so many things and felt like this whole deal was complicated and I didn't understand. But I took the actions anyway. I had that willingness to just keep moving my feet. And with each step, I got to see more and more of how selfish I really was and still am, and more the joy of helping the next person. And it keeps getting better. My life hasn't gotten better in like circumstances. Like I look back and I'm like, ooh, like like financial stuff and health stuff, not as good as it was a few years ago right now for me, but the peace and joy and love I get to feel today, exponentially better. Where I wouldn't trade it for the world. Um,
That's two
so it,
minutes, Alice. Sorry.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Peter. So if you're new, I hope you'll reach out to help another new person. There are many places throughout AA literature that talks about that. There's a place in the big book in the family afterwards at the bottom of page 129 where it talks about how the alcoholic helping other alcoholics, helping others does more to ensure sobriety even in the first days of convalescence. Helping others does more to ensure sobriety than anything else. Any other activity I could possibly undergo, helping others seems to be the key. It gets me out of my head. And it's never we alcoholics are always shoulder to shoulder. It's never a teacher student kind of deal. We're equals. God doesn't put two people together to only help one of them. Bill's sponsor was only 60 days sober when he carried the message to Bill. Bill was about 6 months when he carried the message to Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob was about 2 weeks sober when he told Bill, we got to keep busy. And then they went to the hospital and met AA number 3, right? Ooh, now help. It works. It really does. What a deal. That's it. I love you guys. Thank you for having me. Thanks for letting me share.